Every empire has its time. Nothing lasts forever. As an empire overreaches and spreads itself too thin, the fragmentation and division will cause it to collapse. This has been documented over and over again. This time will be different though, right? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at what's happening with the US dollar. Other countries have decided not to use it. The future of the US dollar is not what it is today. Some people are in disbelief that this could ever happen, that the empire could fall, but it's not the way it works. You know, things don't happen overnight, and certainly there are events along the way that make big leaps, but you need to understand what happened previous in history and the events that are occurring today, and you will understand the bigger picture. So we'll get into this issue right now, and let's begin by taking a look at this. This right here was a question and answer from the Bank of England. Mark Carney himself answered these questions, and the one that I found most interesting was this. This one individual asked Mark Carney about the IMF SDRs becoming a global currency in his lifetime. If so, will it be backed by something? He suggests that the IMF's SDR will not be a currency that you and I exchange, and most people agree with that as well. I think the general consensus with individuals who believe that the IMF SDR will become the global currency is not to exchange between you and I, but essentially to be backing the national currencies. But let's see what he says here. I think that it is likely that we will ultimately have reserve currencies other than the USD. The evolution of the global financial system is currently lagging behind that of the global economy, and there are asymmetric concentrations of financial assets in advanced economies relative to the economic activity. Essentially saying that the emerging markets are growing, but the amount of financial assets do not appear there. As the world reorders, and you know what that means, the new world order as they always like to talk about, this disconnect between the real and financial is likely to reduce, and in the process other reserve currencies may emerge. In the first instance, I would expect these to be existing national currencies such as the RMB, the renminbi Chinese currency that they specifically mentioned right here. Mark Carney makes a note of the RMB. He could have mentioned a whole bunch of other currencies, but he used that one. And what is important that he discusses in the next sentence is something that I talk about all the time. People think that there's going to be this one event and suddenly overnight, all of a sudden, the Chinese renminbi is going to be the new currency, or the IMF SDR is going to be the new currency. It doesn't generally happen like that. There might be a series of events that pulls it forward, but usually it's a long period of time, and it's not an official, okay, now this is the reserve currency, everybody in the world has to use this. It's really something that happens in small steps. However, history suggests that these transactions will not happen overnight. The US economy overtook Britain's in the second half of the 19th century, but it took until the 1920s before it became a dominant currency in international trade. So there's a long period of time where things have to happen over. Many people are completely confused about this prospect, and I'm glad that Mark Carney had the insight here to bring that to this individual, and we can all read it and learn from it. Not all international trade is done with the US dollar. Of course, it's the most popular currency to use. It is the reserve currency of the world. That's pretty clear. But we do see instances of other countries using other currencies to do business. Indian refiners pay for Iranian oil in rupees, and this comes as, of course, the sanctions being put on them. They have to force their way out of this. They want to use the dollars. I'm sure it's a lot easier for them to do so. But at this point, they don't have a choice. They're going around it. And this is what they found to be the method in which they can go around. Now, ultimately, what we will see in the coming months, that's something that remains to be seen. But for now, we are seeing this. This isn't the first time, of course. I've seen this before, but there will be other events that take place. Of course, we will see other countries doing the same thing. And the last one I wanted to show you was an article from RT, and basically basically what it talks about is the top 5 countries opting to ditch the US dollar and the reasons behind their move. So they basically go into detail for each country. I'll show you the countries right here. We're looking at China, we're looking at India, Turkey, Iran, and Russia. Okay, we've heard of these all before and the actions that they've taken on any given time frame, but it's very important to understand why each country is doing what they're doing. You know, a country like China holding over $1 trillion in US treasuries has a very big reason to maintain the status quo. They have a lot to lose in this case. However, in the long term, we see that they have been shedding their total quantity of treasuries. They were over 1.3 trillion at one point. Now they're at about 1.1 trillion. It's taken a long time, and surely they don't want to get rid of it overnight, but they have been diversifying their assets, as we can see. That has been very clear. So that's China. And then we can move to India, for example, as we just covered. You can look at Turkey and Russia. All of them are trying to diversify out of the dollar, mostly because they don't have a choice, or the trading partner that they're with is dealing with tariffs and sanctions and blockades and all forms of different political pressure and so many actions that they need to find another way around. The real big issue here is that the US owns the SWIFT system. They own the IMF and the World Bank and every other supranational entity and financial transaction medium that makes it very difficult to do business internationally when they have complete oversight and control. So that's the problem with these countries right now. They can't even do business between each other without the knowledge of the United States. That has become very difficult for a lot of these countries right now. So we'll see where it all goes, but clearly these countries want to do away with the US dollar for one reason or another, and we'll see what comes in the next few years. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, you're supporting this channel, so I do appreciate that very much. And last but not least, if you want the financial education you were not taught in school, these 2 books have everything that you need. You can flip through them in the link in the description. I talk about currencies in here. I talk about inflation. I talk about the relationship in between China and the US. Talking about making money, so much more. Check them out at the link. If you want the audiobook version, you can get that at themoneygps.com.